I started out by setting all of my jacks to 3 3/4 of an inch high. Of course, that'll change once I get the level under it, and I'll adjust them side to side to make sure that it's perfectly level, both ends. Now the center of gravity on a completed wing with the leading edge and everything is right about here, so I'm assuming right in this area. Yeah, that's close. So just about at the middle upright is the center of gravity whenever it's like this. And reaching from behind might be a little bit easier to get them both. Oops, I'm going to be pushing on them. Right about there should be the center of lift, or center of gravity. And there's 1, 2. Alright. So now get all the paper pulled off a bit, off the glue joints. Make sure there's nothing sitting on your wing. I like to set things on my wing. And now we'll go ahead and, the reason that I've put the jacks 1/4 of the way in from each side, that leaves 1/4 on either side of the jacks. So that's going to be the center of gravity for 1/3 or half of the wing. Now that I've got it up in the air and I was trying to pull the spar, the main spar forward, I noticed it wanted to, there was a lot of resistance to it, and one of the main reasons was just a slight bit of difference in angle at the top and the bottom. So what I did is on the bottom and the top, using my oscillating saw, I just slid as you can see how tight that is? So if that board is not perfectly square, perfectly flat, it's not going to be able to come in all the way. So I took, and you can see where I skived it. That's called skiving. Come on, at least in leather work they call that skiving. So you see how I skived the front edge of this with my oscillating saw. And I did the same on the bottom, back side, and therefore now it'll pull forward just freely, at least once I get them all pulling forward. Now once I get them all pulled forward, I'll go ahead and do a final lineup, which will be right next to the front and rear spar. I'll just slide this up and make sure it's the same distance from this line, or on that line, and then the back is going to have squares. Well, let me get it all set up and I'll show you. I have this straight line that runs the whole length of the table, and I set my squares, I clamp my squares to a board clamped to the table and right on that line, and then I clamp, or at least leave a square there. If it wants to pull in against the square, I don't clamp it, but if it wants to push, hang back away from it, then I got to clamp it against the square. Make sure the square's sitting down flat against the table. And this here wing has very little bow in it, but I'll check it all along the way. Make sure that this falls right on the line, because it is wood, and wood does like to bow. And let's see, right at the end of the main wing, still good. The aileron here part that's hanging and nothing connected to it, it's probably gonna, where's that line? It's still on that line. maybe slightly off the line. That's not even 31 thousandths. So pretty much right on. Yeah, these two are kind of pushing out a little bit, just slightly. There was about 1/8 of an inch of bow on this thing. And so pretty much the whole length of it is, oh, that's about a 32nd over the line, maybe a little bit more. And this is still right on the line. Well, that's because I put this extra one right there because there was a bit of bow. Maybe I'll split the difference and set this one back 15 thousandths. I mean, I know I'm doing machinist work on wood, but that's just the way I am, trying to get it as square. My dad always taught me, you start out with a square base, and as you go, everything will be closer. Now, because we have the end rib caps, ribs glued in, we can go ahead and make sure this is square to the rest of it. This here line going across is square to this line right here. So we'll go ahead and use this little square here and make sure both lines are the same distance. They don't have to be on the line, but they have to be the same distance off of it. And I would say we're just coming up on the line on the rear spar. And I'd say we're pretty much, come on, focus, come on, focus. Pretty much the same place on the front spar. So we're square. So gluing these up is not going to hold this thing square. It will not stay square and flat, for that matter, until you start gluing on the geodetic and get a significant portion of it on the wing. One of the first things I did was grabbed a bunch of strip wood, and very thin strip wood, and have it ready to set underneath up here. And we're not going to clamp the bottom up. We're going to just shove, if we need to, we're going to shove wood up underneath this. Now I've got this twisted, bottom pulled this way, top pulled this way, and I did that so that I can get glue up underneath, and I've sanded that extremely thin so I can get up and underneath, push glue up and underneath, and from both sides. So we'll get started. Oh yes, but what we will clamp is this way on both the top and the bottom. Hence the reason I wanted to jack it up in the air. And just like everything else on this airplane and this wing, you pre-fit even this shim. Don't just assume I'll find a piece of shim, glue it up, slide it over, and then, oh wait, I can't find a piece of shim. So pre-fit your shim even. Make sure you got the right size. It took me about, a couple minutes to find the right size, and even sand it a little bit to get it thin enough. This barely needs any at all. Not any at the front, just part way up it'll need. And once again, if your part A has any cloudiness to it at all, do not use it. So make sure you glue it back here. Whoop, I guess you can't see. On the back side of this right vertical here. Now we got glue all around it. I already did this here vertical here. Maybe put a little bit more in there just to make sure. We got good gluing there. And now where's the shim? Is this the one no, it's this one. So the shim, make sure you glue the shim real good too. Which end? Oh, got the wrong end. So I'm going to be grabbing glue. Make sure the Got good glue on it. And of course I'm going to force it in from the opposite side here. There we go. And that's in there good. And it's all lined up good and square. We'll go ahead and clamp it now. And right there, make sure that it's seated good on this here upright. Then we'll go get the back rib. And the back side is pretty much the same thing. Make sure you get glue on the upright and top and bottom, and then get glue on the rib cap, and pretty much at the same time, let me see, am I lined up? Yeah, let's move it over just a pinch. Of course, you don't really want to stress the ribs at this time either, so if the rib wants to naturally bow just slightly, you know the wing's good and square right now. And the trailing edge and the main spar are even and in a free state. And there's no sense in stressing the rib. Now, if it's way out, of course, there's something needs to be done. Something's wrong. But if it's just off, like right there, about the half the width of the rib, that's just let it set in a free state. Now, if somebody wants to disagree with that, please do so. If you feel like I'm giving bad information there, but that's how I do it. You want it as straight as you can in a free state. And of course, I've already got this, I've already fitted this. It might slide in a little easier now since I have it glued up. Okay, and once again, we're going to have to clamp it forward now, right there. And let's see. There we go. And get one on the top side, and we should be good. Here we go. Well, my first pot of glue did me 5 ribs, so I've got 5 ribs limed up, shimmed up, clamped up, glued up. I stopped here because I only have enough of this type of clamp to do the 5 ribs. Used to have a lot more. They're probably out at the hangar. But this clamp here, the way I've got this one, it's okay. But on some of the others, when I used one of these spring clamps on it, I couldn't get it to quit twisting, putting some stresses on the ribs. So let's see if you can see this move at all. No, no real stress on that one. But I noticed it on some of the others, so I just nice straight clamping with those. And notice this rib has some little bit of twist to it from leading edge out to trailing, and we'll just let that be the way it is. See that little bit of bow there, and that's not stressed into it. That's its natural state after being glued up and dried up and hanging for a while. So we're just going to let it sit that way, and once we put the geodetic, everything will be held nice and rigid.